Imagine a scenario in which all the food that is available in the house is eaten up by the elder sibling without properly sharing it to the younger siblings. What would happen? Initially, there could be arguments, there could be disappointment, but definitely it would lead to something called anger and violence from the younger siblings towards the elder sibling, right? So, we're trying to understand something, uh, if not shared properly, would definitely lead to conflicts. So, in this lesson, we're trying to understand how, if power is not shared properly, could lead to conflicts. So, what is power sharing? Power sharing is an arrangement of distribution of power among different social groups, different political parties, or different organs, or different levels of government in a society. Uh, to say it in a proper definition, the distribution of power among different organs of the government and among different levels or groups in a society. That's power sharing for you. So we'll try to understand why is power sharing so important, and we'll understand through two different case studies of Sri Lanka and Belgium. Let's first understand the geography of Sri Lanka. Where is Sri Lanka located? Sri Lanka is located right near the tip of Indian mainland. And let's understand much more about Sri Lanka and what is the actual story here through this particular case study. Let's first understand the demographics of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a country with 74% Sinhala speakers, 18% Tamilians or Tamil speakers. These are the two major groups that form the strata of Sri Lankan society. And how did Tamilians reach Sri Lanka? During the times of British colonialism, British to get their work done in the plantations took the indentured labor to Sri Lanka to get their plantation work done. So that's how, over a period of time, Tamilians from Tamil Nadu migrated to Sri Lanka and settled there and became part of Sri Lankan society. So the conflict here is in Sri Lanka, the majority group is Sinhala and their main religion is Buddhism, while the religion of Tamilians is Hinduism. Now, the issue is India became independent in 1947, while Sri Lanka became independent in 1948. And in 1956, the Sinhala majority government passed an act, uh, and a series of measures included Sinhala to be the only official language of the country, Buddhism to be the only official religion of the country, and the Sinhalas would be provided reservations in jobs and educational opportunities in universities, and Sinhalas would be recognized as the official citizens, whereas the Tamils of Indian origin working in plantations were denied the citizenship rights. And this act, we call it as a majoritarian act, and it created a lot of anger among the Tamil community. The reason Tamilians are no longer recognized as official citizens of the country, Tamil language is not recognized, and their religion, Hinduism, is also not accepted as one of the official religions of Sri Lanka. The children are no longer given reservations in educational opportunities and employment opportunities. This caused the anger, and initially they started asking through protests that their rights would be recognized, their rights should be recognized. But what was the reaction from the government? Government did not look into this matter in a very positive manner or affirmative action. Nothing was done to the Tamilians to make them feel supportive of. So, uh, so what then happened? So they started protests, and they started political parties asking for recognition of Tamil language, equal opportunities in jobs and education, and also for regional autonomy. But nothing was done. So then they formed a group called LTTE, Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. This group was considered as a terrorist organization, as its main modus operandi was through violence. They wanted to achieve a separate country for the Tamil speakers from the northeastern province, and by 1980s, this organization started trying to achieve their goals through violence, and it was headed by a person by name Velupillai Prabhakaran. and this led to a civil war in Sri Lanka. And this war led to the killing of around 60,000 Tamilians and 10,000 Sinhalas. This civil war, in fact, created a lot of disturbance in Sri Lanka, a lot of loss to the lives and property did take place. There was unrest, civil unrest for a long period of time, and it created, a terrible setback to the social, cultural, and economic life of Sri Lanka. So, what was India's role in this entire episode? Initially, Indian government took the side of Tamilians. Later on, it switched sides. It even sent something called IPKF, Indian Peacekeeping Force, which was actually fighting the Tamilians or the LTTE groups. And finally, what actually happened was they withdrew the support to Sri Lankan government, and ultimately Rajiv Gandhi, who was the Indian Prime Minister, he was killed by a suicide bomber from the LTT group when he went to campaign for the elections in Sri Perumbadur. So, what are the lessons to learn from this conflict? When power is not shared among all the communities of a country, definitely it would lead to something called conflict. The other thing is, it's not ideal for a country like India or any other country to interfere in the internal matters of another country. We've had outcomes which are not uh, happier for us in this conflict of Sri Lanka, Rajiv Gandhi's death, and the other one is 1962 war. We've interfered in the internal matter of Tibet and China, which ultimately led to 1962 war. So now let's look at another case study, Belgium. Belgium is a small European country, smaller than, in fact, Haryana. This country, Belgium, borders France, Netherlands, Germany, Luxembourg, and it has a population of around 1 crore, approximately 1 crore or a little more than that. So, what is the demography like? It has 59% Dutch-speaking people living in a region called Flemish region. 40% of the population speak French, and 20%. And 1% speak German. But in the capital city, Brussels, 80% speak French and 20% speak Dutch. Uh, so even Belgium had a similar sort of issue, but their reaction was not like that of Sri Lanka. Here in Belgium, the constitution was amended 4 times between 1970 to 1993 to make sure that uh, equal number of Dutch and French speaking ministers would be represented in the central government, and no important law would be passed without the support of all the communities. Also, many powers are given to the regional governments, and regional governments, I mean to say state governments, are not subordinate to the central government. They do have their own powers given clearly, or mentioned clearly. And the capital city, Brussels, would have a separate government with equal representation from both the communities, maintaining balance and trust between them. Also, they had another level of government which is called the community government, which includes Dutch, French, and German members of the society. And this local government or the community government would be looking after the cultural, language, and education related matters. So this was an arrangement which sounded initially it sounded very complicated, but it is a very powerful arrangement. It kept all the communities, without fighting amongst each other. There was literally no civil war or no conflict. In fact, Belgium and its capital city Brussels are so peaceful that when the European Union was formed with 27 nations of Europe, they chose Brussels to be their headquarters. Now imagine what level of trust they would have on Belgium, to do that. So, what are the takeaways here? Sri Lanka's way of power sharing is a very negative model, and Belgium's model is a very positive one. And now let's understand one important topic here. Why is power sharing so desirable? Obviously, for two reasons. One should be that it avoids conflicts in the future. The other should be, since any democratic government would have been formed with the support of multiple groups in a society, it is only ideal for that particular country to share power among all the communities of that country. So these are called as prudential reasons and moral reasons. Prudential is something thinking about the future. So if power is shared among all the communities, it would avoid conflicts in the future. So moral reason is, it's the spirit, it's the very spirit of a democratic country, that the power is shared back to the communities that put the government in its place. Now let's understand another case study here through Lebanon. In your textbook, it might be mentioned as Khalil's dilemma. Khalil's dilemma is nothing but a case study of Lebanon. Even in Lebanon, multiple groups lived for a longer period of time. There were Muslims, there were Christians. Within Muslims, there were Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims. And within Christianity, there were Catholics, there were Orthodox Christians. So even they had a lot of conflicts among themselves. But the elders of the society of Lebanon came together, and they've arranged a model in such a way that all the four communities would be given some or the other representation in the government, such that every community is happy. So let's understand what was the action arrangement done in Lebanon. In Lebanon, the four most important positions of the government are prime minister, president, speaker, and a deputy prime minister. And all four of these positions are given to four different communities. Speaker of the parliament is given to Shia Muslims. Prime minister's position is always reserved for Sunni Muslims. President's position is always reserved for Catholic Christians, and deputy prime minister is always reserved for Orthodox Christians. So you might remember like this: Speaker Shia Muslims, PMSM. So obviously, when there are two Muslim communities, when speaker is gone to Shias, the obvious one would be for Sunnis. Prime Minister for Sunni Muslims, PMSM, or Shia Muslims. The other one is President should be for Catholic Christians. We have a position in Congress party in India called PCC, which is Pradesh Congress Committee. So PCC, P, you might remember that way. P for president, and C for Catholic Christians. Obviously, the other communities, Orthodox Christians, and they would get the deputy prime minister. So after this conflict, there were no civil wars or conflicts among the communities of Lebanon. Now the question is this an ideal way of power sharing? Definitely not. Why? If I am born in a Catholic Christian community and I want to become the prime minister of Lebanon, would I be given that opportunity? Definitely no, because if I am born in a Catholic Christian community, all that I would get is the president. That's it. And if I am born in a Shia Muslim community, would I be allowed to become the president or the deputy prime minister? No. But is this that bad or so bad? No. Why? Because it and all the four important positions are shared in such a way that it was able to avoid any sort of a conflict, which means it's an ideal one. So moving on, what are the different forms of power sharing? There are actually four different forms of power sharing. One is horizontal distribution of power, in which the entire power is shared in such a way that different organs at the same level are given different sort of powers, and this is also called checks and balances. Each organ here in the same level would be doing their work allotted to them through the constitutional arrangements or some other arrangement, and each one would not be interfering in each other's work. Also, they would be keeping a check on each other. So this is one sort of one form of power sharing. The other one would be power distribution being done through different levels. That is at the center level, at the state level, at the local level. This is called vertical power distribution: center level, state level, and local level. So power coming from top to bottom. This is also very interesting form of power sharing, because each level would have their own clear demarcations of power, their own powers allocated to each one, would help in the proper organization of the state. The other form of power sharing is power share sharing among social groups. Every country would have multiple groups, linguistic groups, religious groups, socially weaker sections. And what can actually be done through this is reservations can be given here, and different social groups can be asserted with different sort of powers, which would keep everyone happier. So, what is done in India regarding this? Reservation is given to multiple social groups. Uh, so this is one sort of power sharing among social groups, and the other one is power sharing through political parties and pressure groups. Every political party in India is allowed to speak, is allowed to criticize the government, is allowed to carry out certain functions. What is this? This is power sharing, or this is power being shared to the political parties. And there are also NGOs working, pressure groups working against the government and with the government. So this is another form of arranging power. So I try to cover every important topic from this lesson. So that's it from my side. Thank you.